Let me ask you, where will this movement be in 10 years? How much more ubiquitous will it be in this society? I know what your hopes might be. What do you think is realistic? And by that point, will we have seen, Olympic champions? I mean, real elite athletes being truly the product of an LTAD system?
I have no idea. We're already seeing in the sports that were early adopters, they're identifying world champions that have been, as they've said, these are LT80 kids. And so the early adopters are already seeing that performance gain. As we spoke earlier, when I say, I have no idea, we never defined what it looked like in the end. And we, in the early days, we were asked repeatedly, okay, so what does it look like? What does it look like in the end? And of course, when we talk about measuring and formative and summative evaluation, and you've got to define the end and you work towards that end, we purposely resisted answering the question or giving that definition because of a belief that if we defined it, that would inherently limit what could occur. And I don't think that any of us would have could have come up with an end definition that is as good as what's here today. Like, we would have defined it in more limited terms than actually what exists. I mean, this is beyond our dreams. This is beyond our wildest dreams, that here today, there's a whole bunch of people from health that are in the room saying, okay, hey, let's work together on this physical literacy, and education is here, and recreation is doing great stuff. I mean, we couldn't have dreamed that back in 2004, 2005. So I think that was another key to where we are now, is that we didn't limit ourselves by definition.
So much of this movement's success seems to be, ironically, from marketing. I don't think any of you, I could be wrong, have a marketing background, but by using terms like physical literacy, which is quite appealing to a number of groups, right? Health groups or otherwise, education folks, you're able to bring them into the conversation. Active for life, sometimes it seems almost like a de-emphasis of the word sport at times, or there's a careful use of the word sport. How much of that was just sort of lucky, or you deliberately were trying to market this thing in the right way? Anybody? Colin.
I think it's a combination of luck and planning. I think occasionally you were kicking ideas around the table and somebody would say something and the rest would go, yeah, that's a good way to express that. Let's capture that. So that I would love to say we were sufficiently forward-thinking to have sat in the room the first day we met and to have planned this through, let's choose some truly great marketing slogans and we'll do it this way. If anybody thinks that that's the way we worked, you greatly exaggerate what we were capable of. So I think it was that lack of combination and in some ways being quite Darwinian, putting some ideas out there, see what has traction, let's push that further. This doesn't have traction, let's back off from it.
Got it, being flexible. He's fun.
I just would like to compliment Richard's words, and 10 years from now, it is a journey, not a destination. And I believe that we will be, in 10 years, we will be well advanced with developmentally appropriate training, developmentally appropriate competition system and structure. Physical literacy will be delivered to provinces, regions, and communities. And the steps we have done in the past, I strongly believe these are leaps, not steps, if you look at back 2005. So in the next 10 years, I believe that further leaps will be happening.
Yeah, just echo those points. I think one of the things that really drove us all in the early days was there's such great information and knowledge in the area that was just completely being ignored in terms of practice. And what we found particularly grating was there was a lot of knowledge tied up in the academic world. There were books on bookshelves that anyone could buy that absolutely lay out the concept of age-appropriate programming in education, even in sport. And the fact that no one was screaming these things to the rooftops in the same way, even on the health side of things. There's great knowledge on what we should do to look after ourselves. If this was a cancer drug, we'd probably all be on trial for our unethical, immoral behavior for not really doing something about it. And so that was one of the driving aspects about how can we get this information out. And one of the things that I thought really drove us, we probably had a bit of a ulterior motive because we were clearly interested in an end result from a performance point of view, performance sport, and the vehicle about making sure that those that have that aptitude and drive can get to represent Canada on the international stage. But obviously, as I said earlier, it morphed into much more of a mass participation health aspect as an undercurrent to it. And as Isfan just alluded to, we've still got a lot of real work ahead of us in terms of those that are actually interested on the performance side to ensure that the dovetailing of those programs and the scrutiny that they require and the decision making around them is also built. So this is a movement that will never have an end point. That's that whole principle of Kaizen. As knowledge improves, as systems improve, as the country improves, as facilities are built, as understanding is more widespread, as best practice builds on better practice, etc., it just moves forward. And I would hope that the discussions in 10 years' time are an evolutionary, organic stage further ahead than the discussions we're having today. And we better not be talking about some of the basic things that we're discussing right now.
Let me ask you, following up on that, I was in your talk this morning, Stephen, where you made the point that for all the good that this movement has done, that one error that we've made is not addressing the parents. We've done the top down, but what about the bottom up? And you thought there was something missing there.
Well, I don't know, it is missing, let's say, but I want to dwell on, obviously, on the more positive things, because there are great efforts in the area and various groups with, I'll use the word jurisdiction, great jurisdiction or interest in those areas are moving forward. And the key thing about this, as I said right at the start, is about bringing those groups together. We're all in this together. Best interests, again, of children and youth. That's obviously our driving mantra. And to make sure that we make the best possible decisions. But because of the way we started, the chance aspect and where we came from, and starting more with the NSOs, we of course didn't necessarily design the entire process as one might do if you really sat down and thought about it. We came from a particular perspective. And so now we have a little bit of catching up to do right at the grassroots level, and that's where a lot of our energies should really play out, because we have huge opportunity at the community level to effect very real change. The challenge around that is making sure that it sticks. That's all.
Does anybody else have any other thought? I was going to use that as sort of a setup.
Yeah, if I could.
Are there any flaws with the model? Anything that you...
Really a follow-up to that. I think we would have been premature focusing on parents, because I cannot believe how our vision has sharpened and improved with the feedback from people at every successive meeting. And I think if we'd have been going out with a message, I say 4 years ago, it would have been a very incomplete and inarticulate message. And I think it has refined to the point now where I'm very happy to shout it from the rooftops.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think further to that is very pragmatically engaging the parents early to kind of drive them and encourage them to sport, which was not of high quality, would have been self-defeating. I mean, if we would have, really pushed parents to go to T-ball without rally cap been there and developed by the NSO, and then down into the system, then it would be self-defeating. And so, I mean, I think right now, as we have, the great partnership with B210, encouraging people to engage in quality sport, when we have participation out there and encouraging people to go and play, we should have a real sense of urgency. NSOs should have a real sense of urgencies, and communities a real sense of urgency to be delivering the best sport possible in the community, to ensure that there is quality sport. Now that we're engaging with parents to get them out there, so I think we had to figure out what real quality sport programs were and get them out there before that parent engagement.
Right. It does seem to be a top-down and a bottom-up scenario, right? I mean, the parents need to know how to make sports a quality experience for their kids. At the same time, if you've got policies that are promoting the creation of second-grade travel teams, and all the kids on the high school team played second and third grade travel, then parents are put in an awful spot. You don't let your kid travel for the team, then that they've missed their chance to play soccer, long term. Sure. Vicky, did you have a thought?
Well, we talked about the parents, and it's not that I think we have to be careful about blaming parents. We have all been swept up in probably one of the most incredible technological changes in the last 10, 12 years. And when we talk about those of you that were hearing Chuck Samuels, who without any shame talked about being evil and saying that these things here, should die immediately. And so I think parents, we need to also support parents in how to make those choices. So right along with Richard, it's about supporting them along with making inroads into the current system, because there are many broken parts of the system. So simply supporting parents to go into programs that are not age appropriate, developmentally appropriate, with physical literacy underpinnings and so on, would be foolish as well.